Hey everybody, this is Phoebe Smith with Love Relationships Real Talk. So today's topic actually originated from a little ear hustling I was doing while I was at the car wash. So I'm at the car wash waiting for them to finish washing my car, minding my own business, until these two young gentlemen come up and sit behind me. And they start talking about their relationship. So of course now I'm all ears. So one of the guys starts talking about how, he's gone out with this young lady for the last 2 months or so, and they've been having a good time with each other. But then something happened that sort of pushed his boundaries last evening. He says that she calls him at like 3 o'clock in the morning, asking him to come and get her because she needs a ride home. So she's been out all night clubbing with her girlfriends, right? And so I'm assuming that she drank too much and needs a ride home from someone. So she calls him and asks him to come and get her. The one glitch in that, because of course, any one of us whose friend calls them in the middle of the night saying, hey man, I don't want to drive home, I drank too much, whatever, you go and get them, right? That's what good friends do. However, the young lady happened to be over 100 miles away from home. So now he's wondering and asking himself, do I get out of my bed for this girl and go get her and bring her all the way back? Now, I'm not going to get there till 5 o'clock because it's 100 miles away, right? So he's deliberating back and forth, talking to his friend. His friend is sitting there dutifully listening to him, as all good friends do, except for me. I talk and give eye expressions and funny faces as I'm listening to conversations. But so the friend is sitting there and he's listening and taking all the information in. And so he asks him, he says, so man, what do you think I should have done? Should I have gone to get her or what? Because from what my understanding is he got up and went and got her. So now he's feeling kind of silly about it. Not silly, he's feeling dumb. He's feeling used, feel like he got ganked. So anyway, his friend says, well, man, if you really like her, I guess that's a feather in your cap for going and getting her. But it doesn't sit right with this young gentleman. There are some other things that he goes on to talk about to say that, yeah, she's cool and everything, but... And then he mentions all these other things that have come up that makes him feel a little sketchy about her. So, of course, this brings up that now an old adage that we learned about like 5 or 6 years ago when the gentleman came out with the book series, They Just Aren't Into You. So I'm thinking to myself, she just ain't into you. Now, she knows she can call you because you're nice enough to get out of your bed at 3 o'clock in the morning to go and pick her up. But doesn't she have family? Doesn't she have a daddy or a mama or a brother or a sister or a cousin or somebody who could have picked her up? That's what I'm asking myself. And so, of course, I turn around and I pose one of those questions to him. And he looks at me like, were you all in my conversation? So we had a conversation about it. And so there's a lot of things that came out of that conversation that gave me great material for this show. So what the gentleman was talking about were the signs that we all detect when we wonder if this person is into us or not. So I'm going to point some of those things out to you. First, though, I would like to define what it means if someone is into you or if they're not into you. So someone being into you means that they like you a lot. And you know what they do when they like you a lot? They show you. They go out of their way to let you know that you've become a priority for them in their lives. They go out of their way to spend time with you. They go out of their way to be nice to you and to get to know you and to show you that they find pleasure in being with you. So the times where we might question as to whether or not someone is into us or not is when you're asking yourself why your prospective love isn't doing those things. And you know what it's like when people really like you and they show you that, and you know what it's like when they don't. Some of us may have even been in situations where some guy who's not your type, or some girl that you really wouldn't have talked to if she hadn't talked to you, if they come at you and you decide that, okay, I'm going to give them a chance and go out with them, we know what that feels like when we really weren't turned on in the initial stages, but we go along with it anyway. You know how that feels. So when it's coming back at you and someone is giving you that vibe, which we all know what that feels like, then you can determine if someone is into you or not. But it makes it really hard to make that determination or to come to that conclusion, because that would mean then that we'd be rejected, that whatever we're offering the person, they don't want it. And that kind of is hard pill to swallow. So we make excuses for them. We hang in there. We try not to make a big deal out of actions and signs that maybe we are wasting our time. So we proceed on, but we still have those questions that we do that make us wonder, is this person really into me? Do they like me or do they not like me? Just tell me. I want to know one way or the other. Or do we? So hopefully it's just been 5 or 7 dates that you've been getting signs that he or she may not be that into you. But if you're over 6 months in and you've secretly noticed some unsettling things, some things that just aren't working out for you or don't fit, and you still have questions or reservations or doubts, it's much more difficult to make a clean break, because you feel like you've invested time and emotions and intimate parts of yourself. One thing that makes it difficult to see the reality clearly is that when you do get to spend time with that prospective love, you really enjoy yourself. You have a great time. You have great chemistry, a great energy. So it's so confusing that those times that you're not together, you're in this perpetual state of confusion because you don't get the signs that this person really does like you, like they do when you're spending time together. So it gets really confusing in those times when you have those double messages coming. Well, some people do that because when they're with you and they're spending time with you, they make the best of it. They like you. They want to spend time with you. It's a good time that they're having for whatever reasons. But when they're not with you, their mind is elsewhere. So in any case, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long you've been seeing them and how much you've invested, because the bottom line is they just aren't into you. Now, you can do one of two things with this knowledge. You can proceed as if you don't know the truth. You can ask questions that you already have answers to. You can ignore the obvious. Or you can honor your intuition and your instincts and build and maintain your self-respect. My mom would always tell me as I was growing up, you can't make anyone be your friend and you can't make anyone love you. If they don't, they just don't. There's nothing you can do to make it so. If you are interested in the latter choice, here are some signs that they're just not that into you. One sign is that within the first few dates, you notice that they show a lack of interest in your life. So like they don't ask you questions about yourself. They don't inquire about your day or your job or how things are going with life events that are occurring or the people that matter to you. When these types of situations come up, when you start to notice this, and it's really glaring a lot of times when they leave those types of inquiries out or your conversations are limited because they're one-sided, because you're asking about them and their life, but they're not asking about you and your life. When that situation comes up, you can mention it to them and see if there's a shift. But if there isn't, again, this is an indicator that they're not asking because they don't care to. Another key factor that tells you that someone isn't into you is if you have to initiate most, if not all, of your interactions with that person. So if you're doing all the calling or texting or communicating however you communicate, if you're doing all of that, if you're suggesting all of the events that you do or making the invites and things like that, and they're accepting, which is the part that makes it confusing, they're accepting those invitations, but they are not initiating any, that's a subtle indicator that there may be some issue there. Another sign is that when you ask pointed questions about the progress or the direction of the relationship, you get very indirect or vague responses. So they don't want to be specific in how they're really feeling, so they kind of avoid the question altogether. They only communicate with you just enough to keep you interested or to keep you engaged. So one way this communication happens without them investing a whole lot of time and energy is through texting. So if they text you all the time and seldom take the time out to have a verbal conversation or a video chat with you, then there's some issue there. They may not be available to be speaking with you at that time via phone call or video chat because they have someone else there. There's so many reasons why texting is low-level form of communication, because if that's all they give you time for, that's an indicator that something is off. So I will actually be mentioning this thing about texting a few more times in some of the other tips that I have, and just know that that's the reason why you should not accept texting as a form of communication. I love to text. When I'm very like straight and direct with my communication. I just want to say what I want to say and let that be it. But when I want to have a conversation, I want to make a connection with the person, then I make sure that I call or I get together with them. Those are forms of communication that are never going to go out of style. We do a lot of communicating through technology today, but who out there doesn't know how it feels when you're at work and people email you about everything? No one ever wants to just come to you and have a conversation, and how impersonal that is. So the texting thing is a huge indicator in my mind that's kind of new age, because it's a way of people being able to say, well, I talked to that, you didn't talk to that person. A text is a message where they communicated something to you, but it's not the same as being in communication or engaging with one another. So that's my little spiel about texting. It's going to come up a few more times later on, and that's why, because it's very low level communication. So of course, if your prospective love is hesitant to introduce you to family or friends, that could be for a number of reasons. They don't want their mom saying, hey, what happened to the girl that you've been seeing for the last year? And, mamas will say some crazy stuff like that, unveiling other secrets, friends or whoever feeling like they need to let her know that you just Tuesday's option, stuff like that. That lets you know why they're hesitant to introduce you to family or friends, because a lot of times they give away what's really going on. But if they're very hesitant to take that step, then that's really something to consider as you proceed with this relationship. So you get to one part of your relationship where you start expecting things from your prospective love. And if they aren't coming through on that, and they're making a lot of excuses as to why they're not coming through, well, even if they really like you, but they can't keep their word or they're not coming through, those are red flags. Those are red flags. That say that this may not be a situation where this person is dependable, and they're never going to be dependable. And if we see that from the onset and we accept it, then we can't complain about it later when they're not dependable. And then another indicator is if they break dates. If someone likes you and they love spending time with you and they can't wait to see you again, they don't break dates. They can't wait for that date to happen. And two people who are truly in the beginning stages of a love relationship, they want to see each other. They go out of their way to make it happen. The schedule doesn't get in the way. Their children don't get in the way. Other friends and their appointments don't get in the way of you seeing one another. And it doesn't mean that all their time is then spent with you, and that's an indicator that they really, really like you, and that they neglect everything else. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when they have set a time and a day to be with you, they're looking forward to it and they want to. So if they're breaking those dates, that's an indicator. So just like the young man at the car wash was doing, we all talk to our friends about the voices that are going on in our heads, about those nagging questions that keep coming up for us that we already have the answers to, by the way. And we talk to our friends about those things and we get their feedback and see what their perspectives are. And when our friends tell us their concerns or their doubts, which basically they're parroting back your concerns and your doubts, we need to listen. So this is what's wrong about people continuing in a relationship that they're not fully invested in. They know they are not into you. They have other prospects they are interested in. They are stringing you along for various selfish reasons and keeping you interested just enough to hold your time and attention. I'm not even going to act like haven't been in the position where someone liked me more than I liked them. And I did spend time with them for whatever the time period was. And I think, for me, it was more so not wanting to break up and hurt someone's feelings. But other people have different reasons for not wanting to tell a person straight up that they're not their type or they're just not really into you. And so I understand that it doesn't have anything to do with a person being bad or whatever, but it does have a lot to do with being honest and direct with people and maintaining your dignity and self-respect and allowing another person to do the same. But if you're with someone who doesn't have that level of consciousness, then here's some tips that you can take on to do that for yourself. The first thing you should do in a situation like this is to stop reaching out to them. They will get back to you. Observe how long it actually takes them to get in contact with you, because this is just more information about how they really feel about you. So there's no texting, no verbal contact, no showing up where they are or they're going to be. Completely drop out of their lives and then see what they do. I said earlier that they'll get in contact with you because they will. Because the reality is that when you are together, they do have a good time and they do like you to a certain degree. But it may not be enough for you to feel like you're being honored and respected. And you're not getting that direct communication that everyone deserves when they're giving of themselves in a relationship. So step into your power and you cut the ties. If they never contact you, you can still do the following steps with yourself. But the good news is you've honored yourself just because you stop feeding their selfish ego. If you do get the opportunity to have a conversation with them before you end the relationship, communicate honestly what you have observed and felt throughout the relationship. Sharing these feelings is not for confirmation or for them to explain away their actions. It's just for you to say what is and to be in integrity as to why you're ending the relationship. You're doing more for them than they've ever done for you. The next thing that you can do when you're ending the relationship is to bring closure gracefully and lovingly. Thank them for the lessons learned and the good times you had, and then end it. Don't let them talk you into continuing the relationship in this one conversation. If they are just now realizing what they are missing and want to give things another try, make them work for it. Don't punish them. Just maintain your high standard and stick to it. I hope this helped. I wish you all the best. And please like my videos, comment in the comment section below, and even better, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Love Relationships, Real Talk.